Todd for G66. Welcome to another Tuesday Tone Tip. On today's video, we're on the FM9. I've got the latest public beta firmware installed, and I want to show you a cool trick that lets you use the virtual capo in the pitch block at the start of your chain, while still giving you the ability to have a pitch detune style effect at the end of your chain for extra stereo width. And we are going to achieve that by using the chorus block. I've got a video that's now live on my channel exploring these same settings on the AM4. So if you're an AM4 user looking for a specific tutorial on that, I'll link that video in the description, but you can use these same tricks on the FM3, the AM4, and of course the Axe-FX3 if you're already using up both pitch blocks. Before we get started, this is my live FM9 preset. I'm using the FAS Stealth Blue amplifier. I've got my free cab IR loaded in here. In the preamp tab, I've got a low cut at 80 Hertz and a high cut at 6 kilohertz. That high cut moves around depending on what I'm playing through. Depends on the venue, depends on the gig. It might go as low as 5K, it might come up as high as 8K. I have that mapped over here on the Perform tab so that I can adjust that during a sound check, the cab high cut, as you can see. I also like to map the global mode, the pitch bypass, and a few other parameters on there. The Perform tab is perfect to have all those grab and go parameters there, especially when you're doing a sound check for a gig. So what I like to do at the end of the chain, and sometimes I place this pitch block after the reverb, sometimes I place it before, I've got it before the reverb at the moment, is to just use a dual detune in here to add some stereo width to the tone. So these are the classic Van Halen inspired settings where you've got 9 cents of detune going up, pan to the left, 9 cents of detune going down, pan to the right. Some very short delays on there. I've got the mix currently at 25%, the high cut at 10 kilohertz. Let's just have a listen to the effect of that stereo detune on there. Of course, make sure you're listening in stereo. Now, if you want to exaggerate that effect, of course, increase the mix on there, but I like that just for a subtle widening and thickening effect on there. If you want to go full shred 80s mode, turn the mix up to 30 or 40% on there. If you want it more subtle, turn it down maybe to 15%. Now, the only conundrum with this is if you want this effect, you're using up the pitch block and you're using it at the end of the chain. The FM9 just lets you run one instance of the pitch block. So if I wanted to use the updated virtual capo in here, which sounds and feels fantastic, I would need to drag this pitch block to the front of the chain over here. I want my wah just after my pitch as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset this block over here. So I'll go edit, reset current channel. I'm going to bring up the virtual capo and I'm going to use it to tune down a whole step. So I'll set it to -2. I'm going to set the pitch tracking to chords and the detector source to block in because it's at the start of the chain. If you find that the virtual capo makes your guitar a little bit dark, you can crank up this high cut over here. So let's have a listen to what this does. Go down as many semitones as you need, or in some cases bring a guitar that's already tuned down back up to concert pitch on there, and then you're good to go. However, we've lost that wonderful dual detune effect on there that gives us that stereo width and that depth on there. So I'll show you what you can do. We're going to use a chorus on here, but we're going to go for some very specific settings. These are the settings that I've been using. I'll let you hear it first. I'll leave the virtual capo on, and then we'll kick this in and you'll hear that same widening effect on there. Given me some of that stereo magic on there. One thing that I have found is that in general, I need to run the mix a little bit lower on this digital stereo chorus to get the same perceived effect as the pitch block dual detune. So I had both of the mixes on there at 25%. I think I'd probably take the mix down to around 20% on the chorus over here to get a similar intensity to what I had before over there. I want to talk you through the settings now on here. So I haven't touched the delay time on here. I've selected the digital stereo type. I've set the depth to 65%. That is purely going to come down to taste for you, how essentially exaggerated you want this effect. I found that was the sweet spot for me to emulate what I'm getting out of that dual detune in the pitch block. And we're going to turn the rate down as low as it will go. So I've got it at 0.101 hertz on here. If you want to learn more, a little bit more about the actual theory about why I'm doing what I'm doing on here, again, I've linked the video I've got on my channel in the video description to get a little bit nerdier. All right, this is where it gets super fun. We're going to go to the expert tab on here, and these are the essential tweaks. We want to change the LFO type from the sine wave type to the triangle type. I'll let you hear what the stock sine sounds like over here. It basically sounds a little bit more like a traditional chorus. You could hear when I switched over to triangle, you don't have that real perceived stereo wobble on there. It sounds a little more like a static detune. The other essential tweak we want to make over here is to set the LFO phase to 180 degrees. What that is going to ensure is that our chorus essentially is moving up in pitch on one side, or using the triangle type, it means we're going to get a fixed pitch on one side and the opposite value on the other. That gives us that thing that the dual detune does, where we tune down one side a little bit, we tune up the other side, and we slightly offset it. The last parameter to tweak on here is the width control. Set that one to taste. I've set it quite low, similar to the depth on there. I should have mentioned as well, I've got auto depth turned off as well. This is giving me a little bit more control over that depth parameter on there, but leave that to whatever you want. Experiment between high, low, and off. The width at 12%, you can try it higher, you can try it lower on there. Think of this rather than as a direct one-to-one replacement for your dual detune. It's just a different flavor of that classic Microshift effect on there. And doing it with the chorus, to me, has this lovely sound that reminds me of some of the less advanced units from the mid-80s or the early 90s on there. Like, think of the Yamaha SPX90. It's not super precise compared to modern pitch shifting units, but it had character on there. And doing this, I think it's more than close enough for rock and roll. It's got its own thing going on compared to the dual detune, but I think if you were using this in the context of a live gig where you're playing super loud, there's a bunch of other instruments fighting for space on there, and you still want to use that virtual capo at the start of the chain for its amazing utility function of just going, hey, we got to go down a semitone or a whole tone, quick, do it right now. Turn the virtual capo on and then use this Microshift style chorus in here. Again, to recap, we've got the digital stereo. I've set the rate as low as it will go. For my taste, depth at 65% seems to work really well. Go higher or lower with that one. Use a slightly lower mix than you'd be used to with your dual detune. And then in expert mode, this is critical. It's going to be a triangle waveform in there with the LFO phase at 180 degrees, and then play around with the width and the auto depth. I also gave it a little bit of a high cut in there, but that's pretty subtle on there. So hopefully this solves the conundrum for anyone who's using an FM3 or an FM9 who wants to use the virtual capo in the pitch block while also having a lovely stereo detune at the end of the chain. Try it out for yourself. You can try and replicate these settings, or if you've got my blocks library, I've added this to the blocks library in an update. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you'd like to see covered in future Tuesday Tone Tips, and I'll see you all on the next one.